Okay, so yours is 208. So today we are going to start with data types, right? Just give me a moment. इसको notes पे पहले locate कर लेते हैं. Yes, there is. Right. So I will be starting with data types, right? Okay. देखिए, so अभी तक हमने क्या किया, like we already have created hiring managers and the candidate as well. But what we have seen is in both of the object, we just have only one field that is in the editable form. Moreover, what we learned so far is like, when you create an object, that object actually is not blank, it consists of 5 standard fields. Those are automatically created inside the object. And by the way, what are those fields? ID and the name created by last modified by owner. These are the 5 standard fields which is automatically created inside every object. Whenever you create an object, these 5 fields would always be there. Right. So that was one of the things that what we have studied. We also have studied like, how exactly with the use of standard navigations I could create an object. There's one more technique left for this, and this is schema builder. So schema builder, I have left it, I'll keep it pending intentionally because I'll be going to show you like where with the schema builder how exactly you can create an object along with the fields inside the object. Now the next topic what we are going to start is like, when you have an object represents what? So object actually represents certain entity, all right? Object actually represents certain entities. Now, it must have it must have few more fields apart from the name. For example, if you represent an student data, a candidate data, person data, customer data, or maybe something else, then apart from the name, it must have few another fields as well. It must have another few things to capture, more details about that particular record. So how to create the fields? So when we are creating the fields, we must be aware about something called as the default data types of the Salesforce. And Salesforce is very rich in terms of data types. It supports almost every kind of data, every type of data. It actually supports that. Salesforce have almost 19 to 20 different forms of data type. So I would be giving you a brief introduction about every data type because, and see, I would not going to cover every details over here what is written, but you have to at least go it once. When you would be recreating this, when you would be revising this, when you would be learning this. So you what actually have to do is like you first of all go with all these whatever I have been written. I will rather go with the basic introduction about this, and then then I'm going to take them periodically, gradually, one by one. We would be taking them. We would be going to use the data types in practical, all right, in practical. So that would be more appropriate to understand. But let's have an understanding. See, whenever I wanted to insert some sort of text like this, the name. If you go with the name, this is a text field. This one actually is a text field, right? So whenever we wanted to enter text, now see text consists of all text. Text is that I could say universal data type. It have a capability that you could enter anything with the text. When you define something as text, you could enter characters over there, A, B, C, D, capital, small. You could enter certain spatial symbols, whatever you see onto the keyboard, right? And you could even enter 1, 2, 3, 4. So basically, what I have to say about this is like, if there is a certain data type, if you don't know like what is going to be the final value of this, all right. If for example, if there is a entity called as PAN number, if there is an entity called as account number, or maybe if IFSC code, right? And in the banking transaction, you know this, there's an IFSC code. So what are these type of number? It usually have like your PAN number usually have characters along with some numbers, right? IFSC code probably also have some of the character. There are some of the digits, some of them are characters, some of them are numerical numbers, right? And or probably there might be some other kind of things where you enter some sort of spatial symbols as well, right? So whenever this is your requirement and you don't know, or maybe you understand one thing, for this particular entity to represent this particular thing, it could be a combination of alphabets, could be a combination of numbers, could also be have some special symbol. Then it's always, it's always good to go with something called as text. So whenever you create that kind of field, for example, if you are creating a field called as PAN number, all right, you are having an interface where you wanted the user to enter their PAN numbers. So you would be asking, please enter your PAN number over here. Now to capture that particular PAN number, what should be the data type of that field? So field should be what? Text. So text basically is that universal data type. It allows you to enter characters, alphabets, your numerical numbers, and your spatial symbols as well, right? So that is that. So it's always good to define it as a text. Now it has a limit. It has a limit. You can up to enter, your maximum enter 255 characters, 255. The maximum length could be 255, not more than that. All right, so this is what one of the limitation. So when you define something as a text, it looks like to be like this on interface. This is how it looks like. Let me try to show you from account, because account, all of the standard object, they are fully developed. See, things like this. I mean, this one, this one, this one, all right, this one, here also phone and the fax, these are what this looks like to be text, right? These are also text. See, if I go with over here, this is also text. This is also text, but you can see there is slight difference between, I mean, in terms of capacity, it's looking a little broader, right? It looking a little broader from here to here. And this is some, you can understand, I mean, in the visually also, when I see this field and when I see this field, I could simply understand what is the difference over here. Then I could also understand, what is the difference between this and this and this. You see, this is also text, this is also text, this is also text. But see, what is the difference between them, right? Difference between them is about when you see them on user interface, it difference about area, difference about the length and the width of the field, difference about like how this looks like to be and how this looks like to be and how this looks like to be, right? Now let's come to the technical part of this. So see, this kind of interface where you could just enter 22 up to 255 characters, it's called as text. All right, this is called as text. Now after that, we are having text area, a slight bigger than text, right? Text area. All right, so what is a text area? This one is a text area. This one is a text area. This is the text area. All right. Then we are having something called as text area long. More bigger than, if you wanted to enter more number of the characters, even that cannot be accumulated inside the text area. So what we define? We define something called as text area, but long. So what is text area long? This one, description field, text area long. And there are, there are something called as RTF, rich text area as well, rich text area, RTF. So it is not by default onto any interface. I have to implement this. So I would be doing one thing, out of these three objects, hiring manager, position, and the candidate, I will create one of them as RTF, rich text field. So you would be going to understand what is the main difference between a text area long and a text area rich, all right? So we're going to see that. So in the text, text itself have so many different types. The plain text, and then text area long, and text area rich, right? And then go with all these properties, whatever has been written. Why I have created all these notes? I created this for your learning purpose. Otherwise I will be implementing them in the practical, right? Inside the object, I'm going to define some of them as text, some of them as area, some of them as long, some of them in RTF, right? So you would going to have an understanding over there as well. बट कैसा ना, थोड़ा बहुत थ्योरी जैसे अगर लिखा है तो उसको पढ़ो एक बार, एटलीस्ट एक बार तो भी जाना चाहिए आप लोगों को, ठीक है? सीधा सीधा स्किप करके आगे नहीं बढ़ेंगे आप. The next is email. So email also is a data type. Like if you go with not with the account don't have any email, but if you go with like contact and you try to enter a new contact, there's a field called as an email. See this one, email. Now one question here, what you could ask me is, See, we could even enter email, right? We could even if I define a field as text, all right. If you define a field as text, like this first name, like this last name, account number. If I define a data type as what text, I could also enter email. Why there is a email is a separate data type? What is the requirement to have email as a separate data type? I will tell you this. See, when we code something in the Java, right? When we define some interface in Java, or maybe on .NET as well. So if I wanted to, if I'm creating a user interface, if I'm creating one UI where I'm asking user to enter their email, so that time the data type is text only, right? In the Java and .NET, we don't have any data type related to this email, especially for the email. But in Salesforce, we have. So what is what is the difference between why we could enter the same thing with the text as well? So why we have email over here as a separate data type? Because what happens, if you enter this as a text, understand, if you enter this as a text, like if for example, let's consider the data type, the internal data type of this field email. On the contact, there's a field. On the contact, there's a field called email. And let's make an assumption that this field internally is not email. It's actually the data type of this is text. All right. So if you are entering your proper email, then it's okay. It's okay. But see, when it is text, you could even enter like this. Okay. You could even enter like this. But email have a proper format. Email actually have a proper format, right? Email actually have a proper format. Right? Who is going to validate this? Who is going to validate this, right? Who is going to validate this? See, if you define this field as text, that is what we do in Java and .NET. We define the field as text, and then internally we write, internally we write a code. We write a small JavaScript for this just to have a validation. And what is that JavaScript? Let me try to show you that. Let me try to show you that. So if you wanted to validate what the user has entered, what the user has entered, is actually, I mean, this is the regular expression for this. And what you require to do is like, you have to make small code. This is an Apex. Actually, you can do the same thing in the JavaScript or maybe in another language, but this is what you require to test. You have to make a comparison what the user have entered with a known pattern. You could consider this regular expression, you could consider this as a known pattern. This is a known pattern. You have to compare this, and then based on that you have to write down certain code to validate कि यार user ने जो enter किया है ना, वो actually हमारा जो email का जो standard format होता है तो उससे match हो रहा है कि नहीं हो रहा है. मतलब जैसे कि email के format में क्या होता है, you must have something called as @ you must have something called as a period called dot. उसके बाद में फिर क्या होते हैं, तो domain names होते हैं. Domain names could be .com, org, something like that. So if you define email field as what? If you define email field as a text, then in the backend you also would require to write down a validation for this, right? You also would require to write down a validation for this. Why? Just to verify whether the whatever the user have entered inside this field is actually a proper email ID or not. It is whatever the user have entered, it is in the standard format of email ID or not. And so this is actually one of the extra effort, when you define the things, when you create, when you define the fields inside maybe Java programming or maybe the .NET programming or maybe with some another good kind of programming language. Whereas in Salesforce, what happens is like, Salesforce itself have one data type called as an email. So whenever you wanted to capture the email ID, you don't have to define that field as text data type. Rather, you could directly define it as an email. And that validation rule, works in behind. Let me try to show you. See, if I let me try to show you something. See, if I try to commit any mistake over here, all right, let me try to save and see what happens. Invalid email address. Now, how come this error is coming from? This error is coming from a system validation rule, one validation rule which is working in behind, and it is checking the whatever the you have entered is matching with the data type or not. So what we used to do, in the Java and .NET, that code, that small JavaScript, that already has taken care by the Salesforce. And you would just require to select the proper data type for your entity. All right, so this is what happens. It would not allow you unless and until you enter something in a proper format of email ID. It would not allow you to enter that record, right? This is what a benefit to have a separate data type for an email, right? The next is phone. For the phone, the fields like these kinds of fields, other phones, fax. Fax is also internally is phone data type. All right, so this is one of the data type as well, phone, where you could enter phone values, fax values, home phone, office phone, whatever, right? That is also a separate data type, and you don't have to select text for this as well. The next is URL. If you wanted to, if you by any means, if you wanted to store some of the hyperlinks like this, some of the hyperlinks, if you wanted to by any means, by any of the requirement, you wanted to store hyperlinks, then again, there is no need to define text for this. You have a separate data type called URL, a separate data type for number, for person, check boxes, pick list, single pick list, multiple pick list. Like single pick list are, something like this. Single pick list. Do we have right this kind of interface? These are singular pick list, single select pick list. We also have multiple select, multi-select pick list also. We're going to see that. We're going to see that as well. But by the way, these are single select pick list, simple pick list, then multi-select pick list. All right. Then we also have date. We also have time, and date and time. Separate individually date, individual time. Then we also have something called as date and time, date time. Along with date, time is also reflected. Then we have something called as currency. Currency plays a very important role, I tell you. See, for those kinds of organization, which actually is a I could say multi-territorial organization, where people, the users are from the different zones, different countries, I could say, and they have different currency face values. All right, so that time currency is a very important, it's a very important it's a very important field. This is one of the question I'll tell you about more about this before going further. See, I usually ask this question in the interviews. So if my for example, if I'm having a Salesforce organization like this, and let's consider I'm having some, it's a multinational organization, that it is having their users, those who are logging into this account from different countries in the different time zones. Some of my users are from Europe regions, EMEA regions, Europe, Middle East, Africa. Some of them are from the America region. Some of them are from Middle East. Some of them are from maybe Australia or maybe some other countries in the Asia. So what I wanted, there are two to three different questions for this. बट चलो अभी करेंसी की बात चल रही है तो फिर मैं करेंसी से जो रिलेटेड पूछता हूं ना वो आपको बताता हूं. So I used to ask one question. For example, we are having one Salesforce organization, and our users, the users of this organization, the Salesforce user, they are from different countries. Now I wanted, for example, somebody from let's say somebody from US. All right, somebody from the US, for example, if you go to the accounts, he should see he or she, whatever. So he could access the currency, like for example, the annual revenue. He should access the annual revenue, and he has to see that, he should see this in the dollars. He should see this in the dollars. And somebody, for example, someone from London, if he actually, or maybe from some other country, if he actually make a login, then he should see this annual revenue values in his own whatever the currency he's actually having. or maybe somebody from India, if he actually log in, so he should see in terms of like rupees, all right. Somebody from some other places, Middle East, they must see in their own currencies, whatever. Like there are dinar or whatever. Australian also have their Australian dollars. Like there are so many currencies over there. For the Europe region, there are different countries. They have their own currencies values. So in short, for example, if you log in from the Japan, you should see these values in your currency. I should see these values in my currency. How to do that? How to do that? All right. So by default, the currency itself is a field in Salesforce, and it plays a very important role for that kind of Salesforce organization where the users, they are from multiple different countries. So Salesforce internally have all those rules set up for you. You just have to enable for one thing. Let me try to show you that. And this is very important. This is very important. All right. This is very important. See, I could skip that and I could go further. That has nothing to do with this. अभी जो आप कर रहे हो ना उससे, लेकिन कैसा है कि अभी एक बात अगर जैसे मेरे याद आ गई है मुझको कि दिस आई फील दिस इज इंपॉर्टेंट, सो इसके बारे में नोट्स नहीं दे पाऊंगा मैं आपको, बिकॉज दैट इज समथिंग व्हिच इज नॉट रिटन, बट आपको एटलीस्ट रिकॉर्डिंग हो रही है इसलिए आपको याद रखना पड़ेगा. So what you have to do is like, you first of all have to go to the setup menu and then go with company profile, go with company information, go with company information. Now over in the company information, if I edit this, I have something called as currency settings, right? My abhi to ye currency setting, you can see it is into the USD. If for example my organization, all of the users, they are from the India itself, don't know why I should see everything in US dollar, as you can see that abhi jaise maine account pe dekha, so we were looking this into ye kis mein dikh raha tha, humko dollars mein dikh raha tha. And for example all of the users are from India, या फिर कोई और countries हैं. For example, if they are from the Finland, if they are from Uganda, or maybe some other, for example, they are from the Finland, then they must see in the European countries, in the euros. All right. If they are from the Canada, they must see in their own. So you can select currency. This is something called as local currency selections. All right. Let me try to do it with Hindi, India INR. Now see, if I make this changes, all right, if I make this changes and if I save it, where is the save button? Yeah, if I save it, now let me go and refresh this interface, see what is going to be happen. Do you see something, a difference? The rupee symbol. All right. So this was specific to one organization with one locality. Now there's one small thing, and which is very important. Activate multiple currencies. And when you activate this, first of all, understand one thing. See what ये अभी जो लिख के आ रहा है इसको ध्यान से पढ़ो. क्या लिखा है? The currency selected at your currency local will become your corporate currency. When you make this selection, it all depends on from where the user will getting logged. User कहाँ से login करेगा? From wherever, from which country, because Salesforce used to track everything. Understand? ये मैं बताऊंगा आपको कैसे tracking होती है. So when you log in, if you are logging, from India, so your IP address, your country code, where in the country, which state, in the state for which city, in the city, what is your latitude and longitude, what is your IP address, what kind of browser you are using, what the operating system, everything is tracked. Salesforce, you should keep record of everything. So based on your location, your currency is automatically selected. It automatically comes. So when somebody from India will see, he'll see everything in the proper. ऐसा नहीं है कि ये मतलब यही वैल्यू दिखेगी आपको. It internally converts that currency. It internally converts that currency as well. तो ऐसा नहीं कि $3,000 दिख रहे हैं तो 3,000 इंडियन रुपीज दिखेंगे, नहीं. It would current internally that. I'm not sure about developer account, ये जो developer edition है हमारा, but in real time I have seen this. मैंने बहुत काम किया इसके ऊपर. So for example, अगर वहां पे $100 दिख रहा है and somebody from India अगर उसको लॉगिन करके देखता है, तो अभी जो भी आज का रेट होगा, स्टैंडर्ड रेट चलता है, मतलब यू कैन गो एंड गूगल दिस. आप गूगल पे जाके देख सकते हो व्हाट इज द स्टैंडर्ड रेट इज गोइंग ऑन राइट नाउ. तो फॉर एग्जांपल इफ आई कन्वर्ट इज लाइक USD टू INR, तो 82 मल्टीप्लाई, हाँ, तो जो अगर फॉर एग्जांपल अगर $1 USD अगर वहां पे है, तो इट वुड बी लाइक 82.34. जो इंडियन अगर यूजर लॉगिन करता है तो उसको वो वैल्यू दिखती है. And this automatic currency conversions internally goes on when you enable activate multiple currencies. But then understand one thing, this is irreversible. There are few of the things in Salesforce, there are few settings in the Salesforce, when you make it, it is irreversible. If I activate this, all right, and if I save it, turning on multiple currencies introduce permanent changes in the your Salesforce, because it is going to make an impression over the metadata. If you make it enable, that is permanently enabled. If you make it enable, that is going to make an permanent changes. You cannot go come back and revert it. When you enable and when you save it, what is going to be happen would be like आप करके देख सकते हो, कोई प्रॉब्लम भी नहीं है इसमें. ये चेकबॉक्स यहाँ से हट जाता है उसके बाद, and when you उसके बाद you never get a chance to revert that changes. So this is something which is irreversible. But this is the way to activate multiple currencies for multiple different users. All right. Now, so this is one, this is one common question. And there are two more things related to this. There are two more things related to this. एक तो ये है कि how do you activate multiple different currencies for different users? So what you have to do, you have to make the changes in the currency settings. Right? From here, you could specifically select a currency for an organization. But if you know that your organization users inside your organization, if they are logging from different countries from their different zones, then what you have to change, you have to change their local, you have to define their locals, right? Their locals. See, these are the things, right? These are the names of all countries and all. You first have to define their locals. You first of all have to define their local, and then accordingly you can enable something called as currency settings and activate multiple currencies. But you also have to know of one thing, that once this setting has been enabled, it is irreversible changes, because that makes a permanent impression on metadata and it cannot be reverted back. All right, that was the first thing. Second thing would be about the languages and how to select a time zone. This is again simple thing. I could select it like my time zone. अभी GMT माइनस ये PDT ले रहा है, अभी पैसिफिक डे टाइम बोलते हैं इसको PDT. But I could select my time zone as GMT plus 5:30. That's Indian Standard Time. GMT plus 2 1. Okay, 1 2 5 5:30 Indian Standard Time. Asia GMT plus 5:30. Mawson Indian Standard Time. Asia Kolkata. Colombo Sri Lanka. And then I have to select this one. Okay, so this is my GMT plus 5:30. ये हो गया time zone का selection. One more thing would be like ना language selection जो है, ये मैं I would be going to take one topic called as translation workbench. वहां पे यहाँ पे फिर मैं आपको ये चीज पे लेके आऊंगा. तो अभी मतलब इससे रिलेटेड तीन चीजें हैं. एक तो करेंसी का सिलेक्शन, टाइम जोन का सिलेक्शन, और दूसरा लैंग्वेज का. बट लैंग्वेज को थोड़ा सा, अभी दो चीजें मैंने कवर कर दी, लैंग्वेज को थोड़ा सा ना हम अभी पेंडिंग रखते हैं, बिकॉज दैट इज समथिंग विच इज अ स्पेशल टॉपिक. इट्स अ डेडिकेटेड टॉपिक एंड वी वुड बी गोइंग टू लर्न दिस इन आई एम गोइंग टू टेक यू वन टॉपिक कॉल्ड ट्रांसलेशन वर्कबेंच. यहाँ पे जब मैं वो बताऊंगा ना, दैट टाइम आई वुड बी गोइंग टू टेक दैट ट्रांसलेशन वर्कबेंच में. I have to check it here. मैंने कहाँ लिखा है? यहाँ पे पढ़ाऊंगा मैं, मतलब यहाँ इस नोट्स में क्यों नहीं, आई हैव टू चेक फॉर दिस, बट अदरवाइज दिस इज समथिंग व्हिच आई वुड बी कवरिंग ओवर हियर. ये नोट्स मैंने कहाँ से कॉपी की देखना पड़ेगा. 206 मैं लेके आता हूँ नोट्स. 1 second, जस्ट गिव मी अ मोमेंट. कहाँ लिख रखे हैं यार, मैंने एक बैच अभी तो रिसेंटली मैंने एक दो बैच में पढ़ाया है, बट वो मुझे याद नहीं आ रहा है मैंने कहाँ लिख रखा है। ऑल राइट, बट डोंट वरी, दैट इज अ टॉपिक। और मुझे पता है कि एक्चुअली वो कहाँ पे आपको मतलब पढ़ानी है वो चीजें। ठीक है, चलो, सो दैट वाज वन थिंग। एक और चीज स्लिप हो गई मेरे दिमाग से, एक मिनट में सोचने दो। किससे भी निकला यार। हम्म, ये ट्रांसलेशन वर्क बेंच में कवर करने वाला हूँ, ये हो गया। करेंसी भी हो गई। ठीक है, चलो, अभी याद तो नहीं आ रहा है, कुछ था एक दिमाग में बताना था, जान दो। एनीवेज, द नेक्स्ट इज ये था करेंसी, करेंसी के बारे में। नंबर, परसेंटेज, check boxes, pick list, multiple select date, date time, currency. Okay. Then the next is geolocation. For example, abhi when you know map में there are two important is latitude and longitude, right? So if we wanted to store the current values of this, right? So we define a field with geolocation. Now geolocation precisely would help you out, right? To store two important entities for somebody's location, and that is latitude and longitude. All right. So when the next is text encrypted, it is also a text, but it is in the encrypted form. So when you enter your password somewhere, you know that that password is actually masked. Either it is masked with a small asterisk or a capital X. So what should be the masking character, that is up to you. आप decide कर सकते हो. But whenever you type your password, so password your password are actually they are masked with this, right? They are hidden. They are make hidden with this characters. All right. So this is also one of the provision that you could make a field directly as an encrypted. In Java, again, you have to write an validation rule for this, for the coding for this. You have to define it text in the front end, and then in the back end you have to write a coding so that whatever somebody is entering should be get masked. But here there is no need to require, there's no requirement, there's no requirement for this. You can simply select the field as encrypted, and every coding whatever it is going to run in behind. Then auto number, we are going to take it in whenever we enter the value, and we wanted that every record should be numbered every time, by incremented by one. For example, the first record what you have entered has a number called 1. Second would automatically have 2 and 3 and then 4. So when this is your requirement, we take something called as an auto number. So these are the things, by these are different data types, somewhere around 18, 19, 20, whatever. So go with this by today. Go with this by today. By tomorrow, you are going to understand what are the different ways, you could see the fields, or you could create the fields. And then what we are going to do would be like, we would be creating all those fields inside the object, what I have shown you in the IDD. In the IDD, this one. Now what we are about to do is like, we are about to create few fields like contact number, HR, email ID. We are about to create these fields inside hiring manager. Then there are few of the fields, which we wanted to create inside candidate, inside position. Also, I have so many fields. So these fields we are going to create and see their respective data type. Right. So whenever you are creating a field, you first of all would have an understanding about their data types. That's why this we have taken first. Now in tomorrow's session, we would be creating all these fields inside the object. So for hiring manager and candidate, we will do it by tomorrow itself, because we are going to follow the same standard navigation for creating the fields as well. But for particularly for, for the position object is yet to be created. So what I'm going to do would be like, I first of all would create this with the schema builder, and all this field at the same time with the schema builder. That means your field and the object, they can be created by two techniques simply. If I wanted to summarize this in, if you wanted to cut it into short, so object and the fields, they could be created by, there are two techniques, standard navigation and schema builder. So these two objects, hiring manager and candidate, we have created this with the standard navigation. Now in tomorrow's session, we are going to create the fields. These all custom fields, and these are also going to be get created with the standard navigation. Particularly for the position object, we will be going to do everything with the schema filter. I would first of all create this object position, and then all these fields, position name to automatically ho jayega, then reference ID, ye sari jitni bhi fields hai, I would be creating all those fields with the schema builder. ठीक है, चलो, that's all for today. Yes, now you have this command. You can unmute yourself and ask if you wanted to ask something. Yes, any questions? Any questions? Any questions? All right. Thank you so much for joining then.